Okay, let's focus now on the Premier League. It's back. Match week 8. We're going to preview it, focus on some of the big games. 7 out of 10 games going ahead this weekend. So let's focus on the big game on Saturday. Andy, I'm coming to you first. Tottenham against Leicester City. Can Spurs bounce back after that defeat to Sporting Lisbon in midweek? Can Leicester actually get a win in the season? The Foxes are struggling, but they've had some good battles against Spurs in recent seasons. So what are you expecting from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a ton of scoring chances for either side. Spurs it's very safe, I think, at the moment is probably the word that I would use to describe it. It's very controlled. It's very measured from Antonio Conte, and I think that's probably by design. We saw down the stretch of last season Spurs playing from behind in terms of the standings to get into the top 4. They inevitably got into the top 4 because Conte, I think, took the reins off just a little bit more and let them be more aggressive. I think with him being in charge from the start of the season this time around, he's got complete control over the entire season. And so I think, and what we have seen from him, whether he was at Chelsea or whether he was back in Italy at multiple different places winning the title, is his teams always start slowly on a game-to-game basis, but they pick up victories to be in a strong position of power in the second half of the season so that they can then dictate how their games, how the season is played on their terms because they are playing from ahead. And so patience is so hard to have these days because it's 3 bad games. Should the coach go? Should we get somebody else in? But I really do think that if Spurs fans can kind of stomach some of the less thrilling performances, not a ton of scoring chances, not a ton of goals right now, I think in the end it's going to work out fine. It's just putting a lot of pressure on Kane, on Son, on Kulusevski, and now Richarlison as well, to almost individually, single-handedly kind of win games for this team. It's going to be hard to watch, I think, in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to turn out okay.
Yeah, and I think for Leicester as well, they're just going to try and go back to basics, be tight. They'll frustrate Tottenham, so it's going to be interesting to see how patient they get. Nick, it's going to be interesting to see how patient fans of Everton and West Ham are too when it comes to 2 teams who've had slow starts to the new season. Do you think this is a weekend where both can really kickstart their campaigns, I guess, especially from an Everton perspective?
I do think that is a possibility. In Everton's case, I think it's one of the big swings. I wrote this in our Premier League preview at soccer.nbcsports.com. They're currently on 4 straight draws, and they've yet to win this year. It's crazy how a win can be unbeaten in 5, and we're on the way up, and a loss is going to feel like we're still winless, and we got to sit through an international break. So I think there is some pressure on Lampard there because of how big and how I don't know how much you can flip a switch there. For West Ham, I don't know. I think they're good. And it's just kind of surprising that they're sitting where they're sitting. They've added depth in the right places. They've missed some guys. Declan Rice stayed. I really think they're a good team that's just kind of hasn't got the bounces to start the season while also dealing with Europe. So for them, kicking on is just a matter of maybe getting a bounce or two, because I really do think their only danger is getting too far away from that European picture, because I have no fears about them whatsoever.
Yeah, me too. Some great new signings over the summer. So maybe it's just a case of them just taking a little bit of time to gel, getting used to the system, used to each other. But they'll be earmarking this one, David Moyes, to try and get a big win to push them further up the table. But Everton, like you said, very, very resilient team, kind of safety first, right? Like Andy was saying earlier, a bit with Tottenham as well. They are, especially with Calvert-Lewin not up top, really struggling to create a lot of chances and then put the ones they do create away. So going to be a tight, tense game there between Everton and West Ham, that's for sure. Andy, Wolves against Man City. I mean, can Erling Haaland be stopped? If anyone could do it, I feel like Wolves defensively are a very solid, sound team, but they also have Diego Costa. They signed on a free transfer over the last week, which is with, by the way, an epic release video with him with the actual Wolves walking around. That was pretty cool to see that. But what do we think about Wolves this season? But Man City, I think, we all know what to think of them at this point, right?
Yeah. Did you see what Diego Costa said about that video when they were filming? He was terrified that the Wolves were going to jump up. Yeah, I get it. Unless you've ever interacted with a wolf in your life before, you might think that. Yeah, it's going to be tough for them, though. I think in this one, like what we're seeing from City right now is not even the very best of what they can be. It almost feels like they are winning games in 10 or 15-minute spurts. It's almost like they need to go behind or have a really, really clear-cut scoring chance for the other side to wake up, to snap into the game, and to kind of turn on that ruthlessness that we've seen them now have with Erling Haaland and the team. And it was a perfect example in the Champions League this week. They go a goal behind, and it's like, oh, man, are they really going to drop points here in this? Like, we did not expect this. And then 2 goals in 4 minutes. They just have an ability to flip the switch on. And I think also what we saw from Pep, 3 subs, 3 attacking subs all at the same time, just before the hour mark, right after conceding, completely changed the game. And the fact that there's 5 subs available this season, we're seeing managers, the good ones at least, really learn how, not just try to use it and try to do it, but learn how to affect games by doing that. And Pep obviously going to be one of the masters of that.
Yeah, it can be really interesting to see how City continue to rotate throughout all these competitions early in the season. So other games to keep an eye on: Brentford against Arsenal with Ivan Toney, fresh from being named in the England squad for the first time in his career. Let's see how he can cause some problems for Arsenal. But Arsenal are looking good early in the season, as we said over and over again. Gabriel Jesus and all the other cast of wonderful young attackers they have. That'll be a great game for the neutral, because Brentford always seems to be goals in their games, mostly for them, but some against them as well. So that's going to be an exciting watch. And Aston Villa against Southampton on the Friday night. That is going to be intriguing to see Steven Gerrard's team, because he's under a little bit of pressure there. A good point against Man City, but they need a big win in that game to kind of get rid of some of the doubts early in the season that have crept in. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest preview, team news, how to watch information, and all these Premier League games coming up in Matchweek 8. We'll have you covered with recaps, analysis, and much more. 3 lads on the screen. We'll keep you up to date totally with that.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.